Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast Real Talk with Sudhanya. Today, my guest is an author of 33 books, Bradley Charbonneau. And how he does it, that's what I am trying to demystify in this podcast. And if you want to know his tricks, his creative spark, talking about meditations, and something very special about his visual capability, check it out and have fun. So it's November 2022.
Yeah.
So as of today,
How
many books have you written and why?
Yeah, why? 33.
33, man.
Yeah.
That's such an inspiration. And what makes you want to be in... I know you since I think 2-3 years now.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
was in 20s when I met you.
Yeah, Corona was just getting started.
Yes, and it's like
Yeah.
rapidly increasing KPI.
Yeah.
Hard to reach. So what inspires you to...
You remember actually when we met and we would sit in our quote-unquote office,
Yeah.
which was the meadow
Yeah.
in between the two towns where we live.
Yeah.
And we would sit there and we were working on a program or an event or a summit called Create.
Yes.
And although it kind of never really existed,
No.
but it still kind of did. It didn't come to existence in that form, but it's really at the core of everything for me. And I mean, here I can just jump out and say, I think what we create is our currency. It's not necessarily dollars and euros and whatnot, but I am what I create, or we are what we create.
Right.
And that's why I create so much. Because
you are.
it's how I am. But it's sort of that oxygen, or I need it. But it also energizes me. It doesn't take energy.
Yeah, and that's something I think is very difficult to understand for
Yeah.
rest of us.
Yeah.
Because I know I have published one book and it was super fun, but I know all the challenges around it, and hence you also coach authors.
Yeah.
And you have like multiple genres as well. You have fiction,
Yeah.
non-fiction, self-help,
Yeah.
and so what happens in your mind, heart, and how do you select that, okay, this time I'm going to create a fiction?
Yeah. I see it like soup, like cooking soup. And some things will come to the top, and some things will float to the bottom. And then maybe the soup goes bad, but it's usually a question of time and what sticks with me and doesn't go away. It's almost like a constant request to, hey, I need attention, this idea or this topic or this story.
Okay.
And only by letting it out through a book, or more recently through audio or video, by letting it escape almost from the prison of my mind, does it come into existence. And that gives me freedom as well. Relief.
I can, now that's the point that I can really relate with, because that's how I feel about my poems. It's a expression or a relief of something that gets out of my subconscious. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So what's your latest escape?
My latest escape, I think it's and I don't just say this about every book, but my upcoming book is called Frequency. And there are, I think you'll love this, there are two elements. There's like the interval of something, the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. How often should you do something and why? So that's one element of frequency, how often.
Right.
And then the other element of frequency is more like a wavelength. Or I like to think of the old-fashioned radio dial where I'm trying to connect, okay, and I see, 87.5, wait, and then it connects because the dial, this box, is at the same frequency as the radio waves coming in. So that's the radio example. But with us then, what is our frequency or our vibration or our rhythm or our energy? And how do we then line that up? Just like the radio is really just a receiver.
Right.
It just receives this signal and then it plays the music or the sound.
Via the radios.
Yeah.
And what do you want us to connect to?
Whatever it is that you need to connect to. But the idea with the book, with the whole idea, is how can we better connect with what we want to connect with.
Okay, so for example?
For example, and I think the two ideas, it's like
one is more practical
Yes.
and one is more conceptual. I
Yes.
see that.
Yeah.
And the practical is important to implement
Yes.
the
Yes.
concept. So
Yes.
let's understand the concept. I'm very intrigued by the
Yeah. So that's very accurate observation with the structural and more conceptual. But there's definitely overlap in the
Yeah.
two ideas. It's
Yeah.
not, and we're not talking apples and, well, I guess apples and oranges are both fruits.
fruits. We had both.
So that's their thing they have in common. And so also this idea of interval, weekly, monthly stuff, and then the radio dial. So if we think of that back to that wavelength, and I'm very visual, which we will talk about.
Which is another topic.
Yes. Then I just see it all. And, that actually solves or answers the question of these books as well. Because I see things in such detail and with such clarity. And I talk about it like I'm looking at a 4D IMAX movie.
Wow.
And I just watch it. And
So you watch your the books that you create.
yeah.
You already have the vision
Yeah.
which you see in this 4D IMAX
Yes.
screen when you close your eyes.
Yes.
Wow.
And so I wish I could just pull you over, sit next to me, and let's just watch the movie together. And then you'll totally get what I'm talking about. So my goal is to then basically tell the story of this movie I see. And that then maybe becomes a book.
Right.
But back to the frequencies, the idea of this wavelength of the radio and trying to tune in. So one element, again, let's go to practical stuff for a moment. How often should I do things? If we take an entrepreneur, for example, because we are both very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
How often should you do this podcast?
Right.
Weekly, daily, monthly, and then there's the analytical elements of it, well, the market and the audience and the whatnot. But then there's what feels right,
Right.
and what's common. The common is weekly for a podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, does that feel right for you? So go do it for a while weekly and see how that feels. And then of course there's all the normal, regular marketing mumbo jumbo as well. Oh, the market, and that's too often or too infrequent or whatever. But it has to come from within as well, where that radio dial lines up with the proper frequency.
Right. So
And it's
align your feelings
Yes.
with the practical, because the
Yes.
analytical, I always say, is the servant, not the ruler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I have to share this because I just shared in my previous podcast itself. I was asked, what's the purpose of your podcast? What do you want to do? And I used exactly the words, I want to raise the frequency.
Oh, I just got the chills.
And I had no clue that after that, you will be my first guest, and your book is called Frequency. That's really cool.
Yeah. Wow. So you add in another element because you say raise the frequency. Because that's like part 3 of the book or something, because that's a luxury to raise the frequency.
Right.
Already the basis is just to find your frequency or acknowledge it maybe.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not talking weekly podcasts anymore. But sure, you want to figure that stuff out too. Mm-hmm. And so then, to make a really simple statement, you could say, I'm going to raise the frequency of my podcast. Now I'm going to have it daily. Right?
Yeah.
It's a silly example. But
it doesn't correlate to...
No.
What do you mean?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
I
Right.
get it. Just to... then my next question would be just to improvise a bit more on this whole topic of frequency, because I love this topic. What do you really mean when you say that let's get in tune with our frequency?
Yeah. And that is the radio dial of the equation. And I really think that is the much more interesting and fascinating part of the two things. The weekly, daily, monthly interval stuff, that's great and practical. But what does it mean to be in tune or in rhythm or in vibration or all of whatever word you like to use? And that is, there's a term called flow state, of course. And that's pretty close to one goal we could strive towards, is when are we in that flow state? And flow state usually means, I'm very creative, or I'm productive, or I'm feeling good, efficient, And again, we're kind of in the practical arena again. But this idea of this wavelength and this flow state, yes, you and I both go to the practical. Maybe it's the data analytics in you and the mathematician in me. But it's important. I think that's, speaking of which, I think without the structure, without that, I'm happy to have that grounded element of this structural, analytical, daily, weekly, monthly discussion. Because if it's just, yay, flow state and la.
Yeah.
It's like, that's nice. But people want practical applications for, I have become extremely spiritual guy. And yet, I'm happy to go fly with the angels. But part of me still wants that analytical grounding of, what does this mean? What can I do with this? And maybe the answer is nothing. And maybe the answer is to fly with the angels is to have fun and enjoy. And that's fine. And maybe that's the answer, and that's fine too.
And I know Bradley, he's very tech savvy, by the way. He made me buy this laptop and many other gadgets, and he's trying to make me buy the iPhone 13 Pro. So
you can have cinematic mode. There's important practical things too.
Yeah. And I love that. A combination of making things practical, but it's driven by a very beautiful intention, vibration, frequency from what you're saying, that being in tune with yourself, connecting to your, I would say, higher self, something like that.
Yeah. So very relevant point and timely is that 4 weeks ago, I started an improv comedy class workshop. I'm a student. And it's in Amsterdam, and it's 8 weeks long. And what I'm learning, it's very much related to this. You and I also know each other from Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
So Toastmasters has 2 elements. There's the prepared speech, 5 to 7 minutes, prepared in advance, go up there and not memorize necessarily, but be prepared and do it right.
Deliver, yeah.
Do your thing. Another element of Toastmasters is what they call table topics. And this is, you have 1 to 2 minutes and there's no preparation and it's very improvisational. You're going to get your question, and the question is, you're at the Albert Heijn and the lights go out. Go. What do you do? And you have 1 to 2 minutes to tell a story or answer a question. So these two elements are extremely different. And I'm finding, and maybe it's thanks to frequency and thanks to all the visions I have, but I'm finding that I am more and more happy guy in improv land, in the table topics of the Toastmasters world, in table topics.
Which is very much, I would say, people are scared of that part.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And this is one of my sort of dreams or big goals in life, is to help people get over the fear, because what is it really? We're back to, it's such a cliche, but the present moment. I'm absolutely not prepared. In improv, the rule is that you're not prepared. The rule is no preparation. Go.
Yeah.
You can't prepare for that.
No.
And similarly with frequency, that's the idea of flow state. That's the idea of meditation as well. And meditation is for me a tool in which I get a lot of these very visual experiences I have.
Right.
And why is that? It's because the best times is when I'm in the present moment. If in my meditation I am thinking about what I did yesterday, or I'm planning what I'm going to do tomorrow, I don't get this flow state. The flow state is only right now. It's only in the present moment.
And you say that, you see these visions in meditation, and that's being in the now. And that's where I sometimes challenge myself, because when I also meditate, when I see things or when I hear things, I'm like, oh, I'm getting diverted. Let's focus on my breath. And I think you give me a very good point that no, that's something that you're receiving most probably.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool that you say that.
Right?
Focus
Is
on my
that a
breath.
divergence? Is that something your mind playing to not focus on the now? Or is it really the vision is the now?
Wow.
Improv question.
Wow. If that's the improv question, I quit. I'm going to go south, running out of the room. That is huge. Wow. Is that the now? That's like a monster, huge, beautiful question. But I know the answer. Maybe it's different for different people, but for me, that is the now. That is, like meditation, there's so much about meditation. I don't even pretend that I'm some knowledgeable expert. Absolutely not. I think meditation is that. It's finding that moment of now, and that people struggle with. I can't clear my mind. I can't stop thinking about what I need to buy at the Albert Heijn and all the everyday stuff. And I get that, and that is hard to get over that stuff. But for me, the true goal, the beauty, and the reason I meditate every single day is because I'm going to the IMAX theater. And I'm like, here we go. What do we got today?
Wow. This is also beautiful. I want to get more in detail into the IMAX part. That let's round up the frequency meditation book creation, and also this big question which I have always asked myself, because just like you, I think there are huge practical benefits of meditation. And it's indeed almost impossible to not have a thought.
Right.
Not have a thought, but to distinguish, I realized to distinguish what are the thoughts that are chronic and I'm occurring it because of my daily routine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just projecting in the future or planning for the future or repeating something from the past,
Yeah.
or something that is beautiful that I'm receiving, to differentiate those thoughts.
Yeah.
That's something I feel was a turning point for me to realize that, okay, you will always have thoughts, but
Yeah.
what are the thoughts that are in your conscious mind and you're just making up a list and worrying, getting more anxious about stuff?
Yeah.
Or what are the thoughts that's more comforting and it's more like receiving something? To distinguish that in your
Yeah.
meditation,
Yeah.
that might be, still, maybe the receiving is the result of being in the now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or being in the receiving
we're
state.
not messing around here. Can we go back to Albert Heijn? Can we talk about stroopwafels?
Just go deep dive.
Wow.
But yeah, I think that coming back to frequency,
Yeah.
receiving, being in the now, that's what...
You're right. Well, receiving, that's also a beautiful word, especially with the radio thing. Because the radio, like you said, it's just a receiver. Or maybe even better, it's a transmitter, right? A converter. I don't know enough about electricity to talk about these things. But the radio, it receives these waves are everywhere. And this is how I see meditation as well. It's just everywhere. And it's just up to you to tune in that. Yeah, tune in. And what radio station are we going to tune into today?
Right. Yeah.
And that, speaking of, you were talking about people are scared of that or
The
not
improv,
sure about that. Yeah, the improv world. Oh, that's so scary. And I remember one of my best meditation events ever. I was in Munich and at a 5-day Joe Dispenza retreat, meditation thing, right? And you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have to be in there at 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember walking through the minus, under the freezing degree level of cold.
Dedication.
And walking through there. And I called a friend and I said, I asked her, I said, hey, I was struggling and I'm not getting to where I want to get. And she said, and I don't remember her exact words, but the visual I have is very much, a pirate ship, the old-fashioned pirate ship from the movies. How else do we know pirate ships? Oh, you mean that was on yesterday? So there's the plank where the bad guy walks off the plank and jumps into the ocean of sharks and dies. So I'm walking off a plank into absolute darkness.
Okay.
And this is what she kind of advised me to do, was to just jump off into the darkness. And of course, I'm not talking physically jumping off anything, but I'm in my mind, but I do see a plank, and I do in my mind, I do walk off a plank, and I just fall into the space of nothing. And kind of the hardest part, but the most beautiful part, and later it gets easier, is just jumping off into the darkness and being excited about it.
Wow.
It's like going into the movie theater and just saying, just give me a ticket. Oh, what movie do you want to go to? I don't know. Just you tell me.
Surrender.
I'll just go to whatever's in theater 3.
Wow.
And you go in and you see what happens. You have no expectations. Maybe you have an intention. Maybe you have an intention for something. That's fine. But how it's going to come to you or what movie is playing, if you
have no control over it.
Yeah.
You don't.
If you
shouldn't.
if you let go of the control, that's the beautiful moment.
I love that. I so love that, because you're saying that jumping into darkness, which typically, at least I would interpret as, oh, that's something scary.
Yeah.
Why should I let go? There's sharks, literally,
right.
But what you're saying is that, hey, just let go of the control over your thoughts. What do you really want to do? How will you make it happen or get into this flow state? Because I saw it in some podcast, to let go of all of those things and just let, I don't know.
Let it come.
Yeah. I don't know where it comes. Where does all these come from? What do you think?
For me, this is really where the magic is. It's off that plank. It's in the darkness. And then I truly believe that all of the answers we need are within us. And this big, giant, scary darkness is really just another frequency of ourselves. And so back to the radio dial, we're at 85.7, and I'm heading into the theater, and I'm going off the plank and say, you know what? I'm going to, here to use your words from earlier, I'm going to raise the frequency, and I'm going to jump off the plank into 85.9, just a little higher. And here we go. And what do you got? What do you got for me today? 85.9. And just wait patiently.
Wow.
And try not to think about Albert Heijn.
Yes.
Well, let Albert Heijn come, right? Okay, stroopwafels.
Yes.
I need that. Okay, good. And then my visual slash kind of physical technique is, well, let's stick with the Albert Heijn. In the Albert Heijn, you take your groceries and you put them on the conveyor belt, that moving belt. So I take my thought and I put it on the conveyor belt, and it's going to go over that way to the cashier.
Right.
And then I know I'm going to pay for it in a minute, and I'm going to put it in my bag. So I don't need to think about that anymore. The stroopwafels that I want to get, I put them on the conveyor belt, I let them go, and they go away. I'm not going to forget stroopwafels anymore.
Yeah.
Because
I've done my
thought, got it, it's on the conveyor belt. Thank you very much. Really looking forward to you later. But bye-bye for now.
Yeah.
Because I've got to go jump off this plank.
Yeah.
And then just let it go. And I absolutely realize what I'm saying is difficult. These thoughts on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And I swear from experience how difficult it is. It's super hard because then you're going to say, I've got a shopping cart of things here, and you just have the stroopwafel. Bradley just puts the stroopwafel on the conveyor belt, and he jumps off into the never land of magic.
Okay, for my audience, stroopwafel is a very famous waffle, a Dutch waffle, a very popular snack, and Albert Heijn is a very popular grocery store. Just for context, because we are so used to it.
And they're really yummy.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to maybe round up the whole book thing now. Yeah. What do you say is that, okay, all the books are your result of your passion with creation?
Yeah.
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 And that made you create 33 books, which is amazing, out of the world.
Yeah.
Something which is not normal, Bradley. I would like you to really, really take that as a compliment. That's extraordinary capability to produce so many books, and something that you say so casually as if everybody does it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say those words, because that's exactly how I think about it. I think of it as casual, and it's not a big deal.
No.
But it's also the wish, the dream I have for everyone. Because if you think of these books as baggage or something weighing you down, once I publish them, they are released, and I lose the weight. And it's a great term, lose the weight, W-E-G-H-T, E-I-G-H-T, and then there's W-A-I-T. So I lose the weight, and I lose the weight.
Oh, that's a cool one. And that made you evolve as a person throughout these years, you feel, a lot.
Yeah.
You're a different person compared to 5 years back.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And it's through creation. Notice we have not talked about bestseller, money, fame, fortune, any of that stuff.
No.
And it matters to me less and less. Because if your true audience is yourself, and here, one little tweak on your true audience, it's maybe your audience is a past self of you, One of my first books was really from me of the past. I wish I had known this then. Or it's you of the future. This is what I will know, or this is my goal, or whatever. But then the books come so easily.
And that also makes me wonder that it's also a beautiful way to process your past and future. It's beautiful alchemy, right? To process your worries, anxiety, all the thoughts that we keep on thinking that become stale. You actually process it and give it a beautiful cover
Yes.
and just release it that, okay, past is taken care, this is how the future looks like, and I feel relieved to be in the now.
Yes. So if I were the all-being master of time, space, and dimension, I would require every human to write one book every single year. And it has, it's like what you're saying with this. And in my vision of it, okay, this is a big statement, but there would be world peace. Because just imagine what you'd get off of your chest or off of your shoulders, the weight and I do not care what your book is about, and I don't care how, ideally it's not even good. No, it's just done.
I know about your worst book ever.
I know.
It just reminded me.
Yes.
You can sign it up.
Yeah. But it's getting that out.
Yeah.
And I had a comment the other day. Somebody told me, they said, can't even remember who said it. Somebody said, and I didn't know them. I barely knew them, or I just met them or something. And they said, hey, that Bradley guy, how in the world is he so like calm, cool, and collected?
Yeah.
And I thought, I truly believe it's from creating. It's from letting go of this baggage 33 times apparently. And by the way, this I often feel like I'm just getting started. I'm just getting warmed up.
I think so too, because your movies are getting better.
Oh yeah.
So I'll move on slightly. I'll slide away to the topic of visions, and I think it's something I realized is a very unique quality that you have to see these IMAX movies whenever you close. Tell me about it. You mentioned that it's very distinct, and also I have experienced you mentioning after you had these visions which are so detailed.
Yeah. And that detail is only, what you hear from me is only what I can manage to get out in words. It's like I said earlier, I wish you could just sit next to me and watch it with me and hear the whole soundtrack and watch the whole scenes.
So tell me one of your favorite movies that comes to your mind now.
Movies?
In the sense, these visions.
Oh, wow.
Whichever you would like to share to the audience.
It's not a movie comes to mind so much as music. And it's one of my private dreams is to become more musically capable, because I feel like I'm terrible. I would love to either sing or play an instrument, because I think that would be a nice addition to like the stories. Like I can tell stories. I can even if I even could tell the story of the vision I'm seeing, and there's some music involved, or I could play a guitar or something. That
great way to create.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would just add another element, because I love that music is something that it's like a ritual. If we have a certain music, it pulls us into a certain mood. And just the other night at the Diwali, am I saying it right? Diwali
ceremony.
Yes. There was music.
Yes.
And that immediately helps us,
To be in this trance.
yes, to
Yeah.
be in a trance, which we could use the word frequency again,
Yes.
right? Or a trance that, oh, I have just arrived in another place, another
Yes.
dimension,
Yeah.
so to speak. And to continue on that evening, actually, because we had such a beautiful and unexpected evening.
Yeah, so for the audience, I had hosted a Diwali evening at my place on the eve of the new moon night. And I had some rituals that were collected from different, just not Indian, but from other ancient cultures to revere the divine feminine. So that's the context.
Well, it makes, so we're going to talk about what I see and these visions and these IMAX theaters. And because I got this practical side of me, because I'm thinking of a listener thinking, that's great for you, pal. You know, how does this help me?
Right.
How, yeah, okay, that sounds fun, but how can I do that? Because that's what I would be thinking. I would be thinking, oh, that's really cool. I want to do that too. And so I'm going to drop into rituals again, because here we are. I arrived. Your living room was transformed. I no longer felt that I was just in Sudhanya's living room. There were 108 candles. There were 108 mantras. And then there was a altar. There were offerings. There was eventually music and a drum. And some of you were all just beautifully decked out in all kinds of colors. And it was an experience.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about raising the frequency. Well, you absolutely raised the frequency.
Oh, thank you.
So already just walking in the door, everybody who walks in the door, their frequency will be raised. Unless they actively prevent it, which is possible. Resist.
Yeah.
You don't have to
No.
allow it
No.
to lift you.
So you also need to be open.
Yes.
So thanks to you for being open to that. Yeah.
And for me, that is just a delicious invitation to raise the frequency, because that's where I like to play, because that's where I get the movies.
Yes.
So my daily meditation practice is in my bathroom, because it's the only door in the house that will lock. And so once in a while, my 17-year-old son, I'll hear this like, and I am full on, movie, who knows what's going on. I'm on some other planet. And he's like, Ik moet naar school. I have to go to school. I need to brush my teeth. It's so like, talk about breaking the frequency. So if I can get an IMAX movie on my own on a Tuesday, and that's great. But I don't get them so clearly every single day. And again, I know we should have like a word count how many times we say frequency. But I'm not sure I even want IMAX theater every single day. That's
intense.
It's intense.
Yeah.
But here, Diwali
night,
ceremony,
yeah.
whoa, I walk in and I'm like, this is going to be good. Because we just get to open up.
Yeah.
And you're inviting us to raise the frequency.
Yeah.
And so everybody in the room raises it in their own way, at their own frequency, but we're all lifted. So with the candles and the ceremony and the mantras and the you're speaking and you're telling stories and some history, and I'm just, here we go. And so finally, actually we can talk about this even more, because it's a perfect example of, because again, I'm trying to think of the listener who says, great for you two there. Lucky you guys. I want to be invited to Sudhanya's house, right? And so how can we bring this practicality? How can we bring this into our regular lives? And well, I've already given away the first secret, and that is to have a daily practice.
Yes.
Because the daily practice on your own, and I say the bathroom on purpose. I don't have candles, and I don't have.
That's your ritual.
It's super. I'm literally in the shower, right? And you can't get more not spiritual, right?
No, that's the thing. It's not about the whole
Yeah.
thing. Of course, when you do a group, you need to create that ambience.
Yes.
But it's about, again, holding that space for yourself.
Yes, you're right.
And that's beautiful.
So, and that is a beautiful thing.
And that leads you to these movies.
So, if I can do that on a daily basis, on my own, in my stupid shower, with potentially my son banging on the door, then that's great. But then that's why once in a while to come to an event like yours where there's multiple people and the energy is just lifted immediately there, and then there's the opportunity, there's the invitation to raise it up even higher. Well, then I'm just ready. I am just fuel on the fire, just
you went
waiting
into
for
the
match.
movie. Tell us about the movie. Tell us about your movie that night.
Another element of all of this is the unexpected. I had no idea. I read a little like some Wikipedia about Diwali ceremony and colorful and lights in India, and that was about all I knew. Because I also know, like, and trust you. And I know that I'm in a safe place here. And I can come here, and whatever it is, it's going to be okay. But that's about all I knew. I figured you had asked to bring maybe something to eat or drink. So, okay, we're going to eat something, and who knows? I had no expectations.
No.
So even better than that, that was already wonderful. But then your friend,
Neha,
she started, I was talking with somebody else. I'm over here busy doing something else. I don't know what. And she starts, I think she was reading a card. Was it tarot or I don't know all these different cards. I don't know much about cards.
I too don't know. I think tarot cards.
Okay. So card.
Yeah.
And she was doing a reading for somebody. And again, remember, think of where we are, the scene, the energy, the frequency, the group. Because the group is so just...
community, circle.
There's so much power in a community.
Yes.
And that's where, again, it's just so much easier to allow it all to come in.
Yes.
So she's over there reading a card, and then, I can't remember, you and Susan or asked me, come on, let's go read a card.
Yeah.
And I, of course, remember, I'm ready for IMAX. Like any
just
invitation,
waiting.
any invitation I can get, I'm like, oh, let's go. And this is gonna, and I don't know, but I think with the community and the group and the whole scene and the whole ritual of it, I'm like, ooh, this could be fun. But I had no idea what was to come. And again, because I'm practiced, I turn off the expectations. I'm not going to have some mystical moment. I'm not going to see what ghosts and whatever. I'm just going to go in, and I'm just going to go with it.
Jump off the plank.
Jump off the plank into the darkness.
Yes.
And that's exactly
that
what we
was
did.
the evening about to revere the dark side of divine feminine. That's so beautiful. Yeah, continue, sorry.
So after and during that evening, because maybe you can help me, because I remember I was, okay, so what I was going to say was that I don't remember all the detail. And this is why recently I finished my meditation there in my shower, and I have my phone because I'm often listening to some guided meditation music or a guided thing, and it stops. I will immediately, in the dark, with my headphones and eye mask on, and I will hit voice record.
Right.
And I will try to tell the story in as much detail as I can of what I just experienced.
Right.
Because it goes away so quickly.
Right.
And I know there are some techniques, like I've looked into, I can't remember, what's it called? Something with dreams.
Lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, thank you. Lucid dreaming where you learn some techniques. And for example, one of them is you wake up, don't go to the bathroom, don't get out of your bed, write down whatever you can remember, because that's when it's freshest. So the reason I'm saying this is, for one, because it's a good tip to get better at all of this stuff, but also because I'm giving a little disclaimer that I can't remember all the detail of that night. Although, I think if I'm correct, either that night or the next morning, I did a voice recording, so I'd have to check. But you can help me remember.
Oh, I will help you as you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we started with the card, and I also took a picture of the card, and then I took a picture of the description.
Keepers of the Earth.
Yeah. And she read it for me, and I was chills all over, and wow, it just really hit home. And it was
went into your movie.
Yes. Yeah, it was just leading on in.
Wow.
And then I kind of thought we were done. I thought, oh, that's it, we're done. Thanks, bye. Have another stroopwafel. And so, but we weren't done. Or maybe we were. Some people had finished very quickly.
Yeah, they were.
But then I can't even remember, and this is where I lose the detail, but I can't even remember, how did we go further? Because I think she guided me, and this is also key. She's guiding me. Yes. I'm just along for the ride.
Yes.
She guides me, and I had my eyes closed. Because it's many sensory...
I can help you a bit, because there is the card description.
Yes.
And I think she told you that, okay, close your eyes and listen. What do you feel about it? So she read out while your eyes was closed.
Yeah.
And by the time you were in it.
Yeah.
We could feel it.
Yeah.
That you were, with your eyes closed, you were telling us what you were seeing.
Yeah.
And that's when you started saying story about you were seeing ancestors standing in this triangular way. Do you remember?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I remember telling you all, so again, back to the idea of a safe space. By the way, what we're talking about right now, I don't know if she's going to listen. I barely tell my wife this stuff, right? Because I had an undergraduate. I started in mathematics.
Block her.
Block her on Sudhanya's podcast. But
and that's why I wanted to invite you. And I know that you have never shared on screen about this vision part, but I could really see that it was, what you're saying, it was a IMAX movie for you.
Yeah.
And it has to have some purpose. It has to have some meaning, and that's what we are exploring.
Yeah.
That's what this podcast is about.
Yeah. And that's also why I'm so thrilled. I mean, I'm both excited. I am not scared of many things anymore. But, and I don't think scared is the right word, but I was excited in an unknown kind of way, even being on this podcast with you, because I knew you wanted to talk about these visions I have. And I've never talked about them before, not publicly. I've talked about them with a few spiritual friends, maybe. Or I was in a meditation group for 2 years. It was a healing circle, which I also haven't told too many people.
Okay.
And that's where I started seeing the most things.
But I think it's very brave and courageous of you, Bradley, to share this, because if others who are also going through similar experiences, and I'm very sure they do, or some offbeat experiences which make them feel that they are not accepted by the mainstream society, you might be,
you're right,
quarantining yourself to something very beautiful, something very beautiful to share, because as you mentioned, it's about community. Maybe there is some gift in this. We don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah.
It's so distinct and so clear for you, but we still don't know what's the purpose of this gift. And hence, I wanted to invite you.
Yeah. We're sitting here again in your living room, and if the two of us were just talking without microphones, and I think what I want to do right now is just pretend these microphones aren't here, because that will allow me to open up even more about this. Because I would tell you, because you were there,
Yeah.
I would tell you anything and everything about it and not feel any hesitation or judgment. Yeah. So I'm going to do that, which is scary for me. Like I said, I'm not too scared of much anymore.
Yeah.
But it helps me when you say, if people are listening to this and they also have these visions, and who knows, maybe they think they're going crazy or something.
Right.
It's like, oh, wow, I see all this stuff. And I just see, but other people hear or feel or sense or who knows what. Yeah. But I see the movies, that
and
stuff.
they're very, very real.
They
are quite physiological sensations. Yeah. But it only happens with your eyes closed, and hence you can't, really trust yourself whether this is right or wrong or whatever. This doesn't fall under the mainstream way of being. And hence, I feel it's very important to bring up these topics because it's very practical and real, by the way.
Wow.
And I trust you. Yeah. Because I've seen you in that situation. Yeah. The storytelling that you were doing, it's just not like that made up. You are actually seeing something which you don't have control in.
Yeah. I wish I had such a good imagination. I would write more fiction books.
Yeah.
But that night, I like much of memory, you remember bits and pieces. And so I specifically remember asking you all at that time, I said, hey, I'm seeing a lot right now. Would you like me to describe it? And you all said yes. I said, oh, okay, here we go. Because otherwise, it never leaves my mind. And I get to experience it, lucky me, but I'm the only guy in the movie theater. And then they throw away the movie, and I'm going to forget it tomorrow. So, also thank you for having me here today. Because I hope you're right that somebody listening might have a similar experience and think, they're crazy or they're weird or they're different or what good is this, or I should stop doing this.
Or even if it has not happened to you, to know that there is a possibility that people experience this is your reality. Yeah. I don't have these, but I'm curious and I'm open to hear about it. Because I know this is what you're seeing is very real in your realm.
Yeah.
And it's your way of expressing a gift that you might have, which you're exploring. Yeah. Like you're mentioning that I have written 33 books, but I feel like I have just started.
Yeah. So speaking of talking about it, that really helps that night. Because sitting next to her, your friend, and she's quietly and very such a friendly, loving way asking me questions now and again. And I am gone. I feel like I was in a deep trance. In fact, I could hear people moving and some chatter. I couldn't understand it. And in the room, and later I only realized people left. They had to catch a train. Because when I finally opened my eyes, like, where did everybody go?
Yeah, half of the crowd had left. And half were like watching you. Oh my God, we are watching your story. Yeah. That
was
very intense.
It was super intense.
Yeah, beautiful.
So it helped. It's really wonderful talking about this too, because it helps me also to think how to make it better, how to make it deeper, how can we make it last, how accept it, and honestly enjoy, because this is really, it's fun.
It's the main purpose.
It really is.
Yeah.
And having her there next to me, I really felt safe. And I felt safe to absolutely say everything and anything I saw. And she would then sort of pull little questions out. And I'd just be watching the movie and thinking, oh, okay, well, she asked me this. Oh, well, let me go have a look or see what that
detail is.
See what that's about.
Yeah.
Which was, I don't have that very much because usually I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And that's why for me also it was such a unique experience. Also to be like in real time
Trance.
saying what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Even talking about it right now, I think, wow, what a special event that was.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because I only wish we could do that more often.
We will. We will. Because that was my intention, is even to raise the frequency.
Yeah.
To have more circles like this, because I know it's individually helping us. I already see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it will help the collective too. Yeah.
So I know you asked about the actual vision, the movie, and please help me. But because the part I just get parts, and I have a few things that were really clear. Were this in the shape of a triangle coming from me as the point, but I'm not part of the triangle, in front of me, and then out to the sides, and it's people, and they're in some way and this was so interesting because I'm seeing and experiencing, and then she's talking and asking questions and saying certain words, and so it kind of morphs and melds and transforms her words and what I'm seeing, and one influenced the other in some ways, and it was just a fascinating brew of deliciousness.
Yeah. But I remember that you mentioned that there are these people who are standing in this triangular shape, and they have this they have the smile of Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
Yeah.
And they're all smiling, and they were passing on something to each of them.
From the back.
From the back.
There was they would whisper. I couldn't hear them, but I could hear the whisper. I couldn't decipher what the word was, but they would whisper to the one in front of them. And they were a very orderly triangle. They were like properly, like a fish scale, right? So just perfectly aligned. A fish scale is a perfect description of it. And so they'd whisper to the one in front, and then like a wave, again, like a frequency, but like an ocean wave, the message is coming towards me.
Whoa.
And it's being condensed, and you know that thing where you sit in a circle and you tell a story and you say, Jack and Jill went up the hill and bought M&Ms. And then the next person says...
Chinese whisper.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And the story comes back and it's completely different. You know, John and Bill killed Jill. And so this triangle
and you
message.
received the message? I also don't completely remember.
I don't remember either. And
you were also trying to, I see that, and I don't know, maybe we have to explore that further. You were trying to interpret it also at the same time, but also you were more focusing on sharing it so that others can interpret as well. You were a bit confused at whether I should interpret this, like understand this, or whether I should just dictate this, what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And then you chose, okay, I'm just going to dictate what I'm seeing just detail by detail by detail.
And that is something she said to me too. She says, you don't need to know what the message
Analyze
was.
it.
Yeah. But just know that it came in, and then the fact that you're sharing it with us here in this group, each can take the message that they need to hear or feel or see on their own. Yeah. And I'm, to quote that phrase, I'm just the messenger here.
Right.
And
exactly.
I'm bringing this message.
Yeah, maybe that's the whole reason of that.
Yeah.
Just like I feel with my poems and voice and whatever, I'm just a messenger.
Yeah.
And sometimes even some poems when I see them, like I will, did I write that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it surely serves somebody, and also it will serve future me. It does. And that's why I know it's beautiful.
And that's that's a really important point to bring up. Also for this the whole vision stuff, but even back to the book stuff, is again, who is the audience? And the audience is some form of you. And so you can't lose because you are serving yourself.
Right.
But in serving yourself, you are thus serving others. And who are the others? Well, I'm going back to frequency and the radio dial, because some people are going to resonate with what you wrote, and some people are not.
No.
And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And don't worry, the ones you do not resonate with, don't worry about it.
No.
Don't worry about them. They're not worried about you.
No.
Maybe they buy your book and leave a bad review. Oh well, it didn't work with them. Don't take it personally.
No.
It's just they're on a different frequency. You're not on a better or a worse frequency.
No.
It's just different.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And again, this is one of these things I'm saying as an experienced author with all these books. And I know what I'm saying is very difficult to disregard the bad reviews and the judgments and all of this negative stuff.
It's all about practice.
Yeah, it's you can practice getting used to this stuff,
Yes.
and it'll never go away.
Now, and also I would say the message that I also hear is, you dare to share.
Ooh, dare to share. Sounds like a book title to me.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
34th is brewing. and that's the gift that you can give to yourself and to the rest of the world. And you never know. You can always only look back and connect the dots. That's how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you don't share, then it's just your thing.
Yeah,
And that's
your
okay
thing.
with some things.
Or another thing is, even if you don't accept that part of yourself, that's really pity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say you're not exploring how multidimensional we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like dare to share. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. Maybe that's your podcast, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's like the subtitle, dare to share. Because
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get out from you. The dare to share your visions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the potential connection and help and that someone might receive.
Yeah, and that comes with, and the dare part is because many people, just like you mentioned, that your wife might also think like, okay, I don't understand this, what he's saying.
Yeah.
But, it's from a different frequency, so.
And if you think about that, that's kind of crazy, right? My wife, I've known her the longest. I have the best relationship with her. I love her to death. I tell her almost everything. But then there's crazy stuff like this where I still think she's going to think I'm a complete nutcase, right?
Yes.
Even though here you and I are having a good old time talking about this, and I'm my ancestors whispering to each other in a fish-scale triangle formation, and I'm having popcorn at my IMAX theater, telling a room of people in candles and about my whatever it is I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And that's all good and fun and awesome.
At the end, we had a lot of fun. We learned so much about ourselves. We explored so many dimensions about us. And to be mysterious and to, be curious, to walk in and jump off into that darkness. That's what we did.
Yeah, we sure did.
As a group.
We did. That is one thing that I really, especially post-COVID, we're post-COVID, right? Post-COVID is just more of that.
Yeah.
Because we can all meditate daily in your shower, which I highly recommend. Every human does, although you don't need to do the shower part. But I mean, you should shower.
You should shower, but don't waste a lot of water.
But the group, there's just...
Phenomenal.
We individually are just not as powerful and magical and have the potential of the group.
Yeah,
There's
that's
nothing...
such a beautiful message. Such a beautiful message. And I think I'll say thank you on that note and end the podcast. Thank you so much
Yeah. Thank you for daring. I mean, daring to ask to share, really.
Yeah.
That's really what you're doing. And it worked.
Yeah.
Because this is scary.
Yeah.
I mean, for me.
Yeah.
But you have a safe space. And like you said, if this can help someone or reach someone or connect, resonate, then it's all worth it.
It is.